Sofia Morales clutched her worn leather messenger bag as she threaded her way through the crowded halls of Westfield Academy. At 16, she was a slight figure, barely 5'3", her long black hair woven into a tight braid that swung gently against her back. Her modest cardigan, a muted shade of gray, hung loosely over her petite frame, and wire-rimmed glasses perched on her nose, giving her the air of a studious librarian. 2 months ago, she had arrived at this prestigious American prep school from Barcelona, her subtle Spanish accent marking her as an outsider. "Just keep moving," she whispered to herself in Spanish, her voice barely audible over the chatter of students. Survive the day. Sofia was naturally introverted, more at home with a book than in the clamor of teenage socializing. Greki. In Barcelona, she had thrived in a small circle of close friends and encouraging teachers who appreciated her quiet intelligence. Here at Westfield, she felt like a ghost drifting through a world that didn't quite see her, except when she desperately wished it wouldn't. The sprawling campus, with its ivy-covered buildings and manicured lawns, felt like a labyrinth designed to expose her vulnerabilities. She missed the narrow, sunlit streets of her hometown, the warmth of her old school, and the familiar rhythm of her life before everything changed. The move to the United States had been abrupt, driven by her father's construction accident that left him partially paralyzed and their family's finances in tatters. Her older brother, Marcus, had stepped up, taking a grueling job in demolition to cover her tuition and their father's rehabilitation costs. At 20, Marcus was a towering figure in her life, his arms sculpted from years of hauling concrete and steel. Sofia admired his sacrifice, but felt the weight of it, a constant reminder that her presence at Westfield was a privilege she couldn't afford to squander. She kept her head down, determined to make it through the school year without adding to his burdens. Westfield Academy operated on a rigid social hierarchy, and Sofia had quickly learned her place at the bottom. Tyler Blackwood, a 17-year-old lacrosse captain, ruled the sophomore class with an iron fist. Tall and athletic, with platinum blonde hair and an arrogant stride, he carried himself like royalty, his charisma laced with cruelty. His posse, Ryan, Fletcher, a wiry redhead with a vicious temper, and Connor Blake, a muscular brute with a perpetual scowl, followed his lead, amplifying his reign of terror. They had zeroed in on Sofia from her first week, drawn to her quiet demeanor and foreign accent like sharks to blood. "Well, well, look who's trying to slip past unnoticed," Tyler's voice boomed near the trophy cases one morning, his tone dripping with mockery. Sofia's heart sank, her pulse quickening as she quickened her pace toward her AP literature class. Ryan stepped into her path, his grin sharp and predatory. "Where you rushing off to, little sparrow?" Tyler had coined the nickname after, hearing her soft voice during roll call, and it had spread like wildfire. Now half the school used it, a constant reminder of her vulnerability. Sofia's cheeks flushed crimson. "I apologize," she said, her accent softening the words. "I'm simply attempting to reach class punctually." "She's apologizing, guys," Connor snorted, mimicking her pronunciation with exaggerated flair. "So courteous. What did they teach you in Spain, Sparrow? How to be a pushover?" Students streamed past, most avoiding eye contact. Sofia had learned that Westfield's social pyramid was unyielding, and no one dared risk Tyler's wrath by defending someone like her. Even Mr. Henderson, the hall monitor, seemed to vanish whenever Tyler's gang started trouble. Sofia's thoughts flickered to Marcus, her brother who could lift concrete blocks that took 3 men to move. But Marcus was working overtime, his days consumed by demolition sites and hospital bills. She couldn't burden him with her problems. "Please leave me be," she murmured, trying to sidestep Ryan. "Please leave me be," Ryan mocked in a high-pitched falsetto, drawing chuckles from nearby students. "What's the magic phrase, Sparrow?" Sofia's hands trembled as she gripped her bag straps. Back in Barcelona, she had trained in Krav Maga, an Israeli self-defense system, under the guidance of a stern but kind instructor named Javier. He had taught her to use an opponent's strength against them, to strike, fast and escape. But he had also stressed that violence was a last resort, and these boys were bigger, stronger, and surrounded by a crowd that wouldn't intervene. A confrontation could lead to suspension, and her family couldn't afford that risk. She kept her eyes down, hoping to avoid escalation. Tyler moved closer, his aggressive cologne mingling with the sharp tang of energy drinks. "I think Sparrow needs to learn some respect," he said, his voice low and menacing. "What do you say, boys?" Before Sophia could react, Tyler snatched her messenger bag and yanked it from her shoulders. The contents spilled across the hallway. Textbooks, notebooks, pens, and her meticulously completed literature assignments scattered like leaves in a storm. Students trampled over her belongings, some snickering, others ignoring the scene. Sophia dropped to her knees, frantically, gathering papers, many now torn or smudged with shoe prints. Tears stung her eyes as she watched a week's worth of work ruined. "Oops," Tyler said with mock remorse. "Clumsy me." "This is pathetic," Connor remarked, watching her crawl across the floor. "Look at her scrambling like a little sparrow. That's why the name fits." Ryan kicked a notebook further down the hall, forcing Sophia to chase it. By the time she collected her belongings, the 5-minute warning bell had rung, and the hallway was nearly empty. She sprinted to AP Literature, arriving 4 minutes late, her face flushed and hair disheveled. Ms. Rodriguez's disapproving glare and the snickers of her classmates burned into her as she slid into a back row seat. Just 7 more months, she told herself, her mantra for survival. 7 months until graduation, then university, far from Westfield and its cruelties. The harassment became a daily ritual. Tyler's gang targeted Sophia in the dining hall, making loud comments about her appearance as she ate alone. They accidentally bumped into her in the corridors, sending her books flying. In gym class, they ensured she was picked last for teams, and Ryan hurled dodgeballs at her head, claiming accidents when Coach Martinez wasn't looking. Sophia adapted, memorizing their schedules to avoid them, taking alternate routes between classes and eating lunch in the library's quiet corners. She even relocated her locker to a distant wing of the school. But Westfield wasn't vast enough to escape them forever, and they always found her. Sophia's world shrank to a series of survival tactics. She stopped raising her hand in class, fearing attention would make her a bigger target. At night, she lay awake in the small apartment she shared with Marcus, replaying each humiliating encounter. She wondered if she was weak for not fighting back, for not telling Marcus or her teachers. But the thought of Marcus confronting Tyler's gang, risking his job or worse, kept her silent. And the teachers, even the well-meaning ones like Ms. Rodriguez, seemed oblivious to the undercurrents of cruelty that ran through Westfield's halls. Her only solace was her memories of Barcelona, training with Javier, laughing with her friends, and helping her father with his construction projects before the accident. She clung to those moments, using them to anchor herself against the storm of Westfield. But the constant pressure was eroding her spirit, and she began to wonder how much longer she could endure. The worst incident came on a stormy Tuesday in the courtyard outside Westfield's main building. Rain fell in sheets, turning the cobblestone, paths slick and treacherous. Sophia hurried toward her next class, her books clutched tightly to her chest, when Tyler and his friends surrounded her near the bicycle racks. The courtyard was nearly empty, most students hurrying between buildings with heads bowed against the rain. "Hey, Sparrow," Tyler called, his voice carrying a cruel edge. "We've been thinking about you." Sophia's pulse raced. She scanned for escape routes, but the boys had positioned themselves to block every exit. Ryan stepped closer, his eyes glinting with malice. "You're always so quiet, so scared. What are you hiding under those baggy clothes?" Her stomach churned as she realized their intent. "Please, just leave me alone," she said, her voice trembling. "I haven't done anything to you." "That's the problem," Connor said, his grin predatory. "You think you're too good to talk to us, too refined to be social. Maybe we need to help you loosen up." Before she could move, Tyler lunged forward and grabbed the hem of her pleated skirt. "Let's see what Sparrow's hiding," he taunted, tugging upward. "No!" Sophia screamed, twisting away. Her books fell to the wet pavement, pages soaking instantly. Ryan grabbed her arms, pinning them as Tyler pulled harder at her skirt. The humiliation was overwhelming, not just the physical violation, but the Knowledge that students were watching, some pulling out phones to record. "Someone help me," she cried, her voice cracking. But the onlookers stayed back, their faces a mix of curiosity and cowardice. Sophia's vision blurred with tears of rage and shame. These boys thought they could treat her like this because she was small, quiet, alone. The injustice ignited a fury she had never felt before. "I said stop!" Her voice rang out with such force that Tyler froze, startled by her intensity. "Ooh, sparrows got claws," Connor laughed. But Sophia was done being their prey. Years of Krav Maga training surged to the surface, Javier's voice echoing. In her mind, use their size against them. Strike fast, strike hard, get away. As Tyler tightened his grip on her skirt, Sophia stopped resisting and stepped toward him, catching him off guard. Her knee shot up, connecting with his groin. Tyler's eyes widened in shock and he crumpled to the pavement, gasping. Ryan, still holding her arms, hesitated just long enough for Sophia to drive her elbow into his solar plexus. He wheezed, his grip loosening, and she spun, striking upward, under his nose with her palm. The blow wasn't enough to break it, but it sent him stumbling back, tears streaming from his eyes. Connor charged, roaring with rage, but Sophia was ready. She sidestepped, sweeping her leg behind his ankle while pushing his shoulder. His momentum carried him face first into a puddle, mud splattering his polo shirt. The entire sequence took less than 10 seconds. Tyler was curled in a ball, Connor was spitting muddy water, and Ryan clutched his nose, blood seeping between his fingers. The watching students stood frozen, phones forgotten, as the quiet Spanish girl dismantled 3 of Westfield's most feared bullies with surgical precision. Sophia stood over them, her glasses askew, her braid loose, her cardigan torn. But her dark eyes burned with controlled fury. "I learned Krav Maga in Barcelona," she said, her accent now a badge of strength. "It's an Israeli combat system, designed to neutralize threats quickly and efficiently." She looked at Tyler, still gasping. "My instructor said fighting is a last resort. Congratulations, you just became my last resort." Tyler struggled to sit up, his face pale. You can't," he wheezed. "We'll get you expelled." Sophia's laugh was cold. "Really? You want to explain to the administration how 3 big, strong boys got beaten up by 1 small girl while trying to assault her?" She gestured to the students with phones. "I'm sure the footage will be enlightening." "This isn't over," Connor snarled, pushing himself up from the puddle, his shirt soaked with mud. "Yes, it is," a deep voice cut through the rain. The crowd parted as Marcus Morales strode across the courtyard, his presence commanding despite the downpour. At 20, he was a wall of muscle, his black work shirt clinging to his broad shoulders, steel-toed boots clicking ominously on the wet cobblestones. His dark eyes took in the scene, his sister standing over 3 defeated boys, the onlookers, the phones capturing everything. A slow smile spread across his face. "Sophia," he said in Spanish, "did you finally show them what Papa taught us?" "Sí, hermano," Sophia replied, her voice steady. "They thought I was weak." Marcus nodded, switching to English for the crowd. "I came to check on my sister after the school called about a disturbance, but it looks like she handled things herself." He fixed his gaze on Tyler, who was struggling to stand, still hunched in pain. "You must be the famous Tyler. The boy who's been bothering my sister for months." Tyler's face paled further. "Look, man, this is between us and your sister." "Need to what?" Marcus interrupted, his voice calm but laced with steel. The air in the courtyard seemed to grow colder. "My sister just defended herself against 3 boys trying to assault her. What exactly do you think I need to do?" Marcus stepped closer, and the difference in their builds was stark. Tyler was tall for a high schooler, but Marcus was a grown man who demolished buildings for a living. His presence made Tyler shrink back instinctively. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said quietly. "You and your friends are going to leave my sister alone. You won't talk to her, look at her, or even think about her. If I hear anyone at this school is giving Sophia trouble, I'll hold all 3 of you responsible." "You can't threaten us," Ryan muttered, his voice muffled by his bloody nose. Marcus's smile was chilling. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. I work in demolition. I know exactly how much pressure the human body can take before it breaks. He looked at each boy in turn. Would you like a demonstration? All three shook their heads vigorously. Good, Marcus said. Now, you owe my sister a public apology. Tyler glanced at the crowd, his reputation in tatters. The students, who once feared him, now looked at him with disgust. Sophia, he said quietly, avoiding her eyes. I'm sorry for what we did. It was wrong. Louder, Marcus commanded. And look at her. Tyler met Sophia's gaze, his face flushed. With shame. I'm sorry, he said, his voice carrying through the courtyard. What we did was wrong, and it won't happen again. Ryan and Connor mumbled their own apologies, their faces burning with embarrassment. Sophia felt a surge of power, a realization that she was no longer the helpless victim. One more thing, Marcus said as he turned to leave. If I hear anyone's bothering my sister, I'll be back. And next time, I won't be as understanding. With that, he put an arm around Sophia's shoulders, and they walked away, the crowd parting before them. Whispers followed, and Sophia caught fragments of awe and disbelief. Tyler and his friends slunk off, their swagger gone, their heads bowed. The courtyard incident spread through Westfield Academy like wildfire. By lunch, everyone knew the quiet Spanish girl had taken down 3 bullies in seconds. The story grew with each retelling. Some claimed she used martial arts weapons, others that she was a secret agent's daughter. But the truth was remarkable enough. Videos from student phones circulated, showing the attempted assault and Sophia's devastating response. The footage left no room for ambiguity. Tyler, Ryan, and Connor had crossed a line, and Sophia had defended herself with skill and precision. The administration, faced with undeniable evidence of sexual assault, suspended the 3 boys pending a full investigation. Their parents were summoned, lawyers were consulted, and Tyler's dreams of a lacrosse scholarship began to crumble as college recruiters distanced themselves. Sophia, meanwhile, became an overnight legend. Students who had ignored her now approached with respect, some with apologies for not intervening sooner. Isabella, a girl from her chemistry class, said hesitantly during lunch, I'm sorry about what they did to you. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. Sophia nodded, surprised by the warmth in Isabella's voice. Thank you, she said softly. I'm Sophia, by the way. Isabella smiled. Want to sit with us today? For the first time in months, Sophia ate in the dining hall, surrounded by Isabella and a small group of girls who asked about her life in Barcelona and her Krav Maga training. The empty table where Tyler's gang once held court was a stark reminder of the shift in power. Students openly discussed the incident, marveling at Sophia's skill. My brother says Krav Maga is what they teach Israeli special forces, one senior said. It's brutal. That evening, Sophia returned to the small apartment she shared with Marcus. He was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup for their father, who was due back from physical therapy. His face lit up with pride when he saw her. How was the rest of your day, Hermana? He asked. Sophia hugged him tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you for coming when I needed you, she whispered. Marcus hugged her back, his strength a comforting anchor. You didn't need me today, he said. You handled it perfectly. I'm proud of you. I should have fought back sooner, Sophia admitted. I was so afraid of making trouble. Marcus looked at her seriously. There's a difference between making trouble and defending yourself. What you did was justice. Papa would be proud. Papa is proud, Sophia said, thinking of their father's slow recovery. Did you tell him? I did, Marcus said with a grin. He wants to know if you remember the other techniques he taught us. Sophia laughed, the sound light and free for the first time in months. In the weeks that followed, Sophia's life at Westfield transformed. Tyler and his friends returned from suspension, but they kept their distance, their reputations shattered. Other students began including Sophia in conversations and group projects, and she joined the debate team, where her sharp mind and preparation earned her respect. Teachers noticed her contributions, calling on her more often, and she began to feel like she belonged. To her surprise, Tyler's behavior changed. One day, she overheard him telling Ryan to leave a younger student alone. His tone firm but not cruel. It was a small moment, but it suggested that her actions had left a mark, not just on her, but on him. A month after the incident, Tyler approached her at her locker, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Sophia, can we talk? Alone?" She tensed, her body shifting into a defensive stance, but his expression was different. Genuine, almost vulnerable. "What do you want, Tyler?" "I wanted to apologize again," he said. "Not because your brother made me or because I got suspended. What we did was horrible and I've been thinking about it a lot. My little sister's starting here next year, and the thought of someone treating her like we treated you, it makes me sick." Sophia studied him, searching for deceit, but found only sincerity. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Why me?" Tyler hesitated. "Because I could," he admitted. "You were small, quiet, and I thought you wouldn't fight back. It made me feel powerful. But you taught me that real power isn't about hurting people. You're braver than I gave you credit for." Sophia nodded, her anger softening. "Thank you for saying that." As Tyler walked away, she reflected on how much had changed. She wasn't the frightened girl who had arrived at Westfield. Standing up for herself, with Marcus's support, had awakened a sense of her own strength and worth. That evening, Sophia and Marcus sat on their apartment's small balcony, watching the sunset over their neighborhood. Marcus was reading a community college brochure, his first step toward pursuing his own dreams after years of sacrifice. "Do you ever regret not going to college sooner because of me and Papa?" Sophia asked. "Never," Marcus said firmly. "You and Papa are my priority. College will be there when I'm ready." Sophia leaned against his shoulder, feeling safe in a way she hadn't since their father's accident. "I love you," she said. "I love you too, Hermana." Marcus replied, wrapping an arm around her. "You're stronger than you know." Sophia smiled, thinking about the martial arts club she planned to start at Westfield and the new friends she had made. She had learned that strength came not just from fighting, but from knowing when to fight and when to lean on those who loved her. Family protected family, and that was a truth she carried with her now. A voice found. The next morning, Sophia walked through Westfield's halls with her head high, no longer the sparrow who hid from the world. As she passed the spot where Tyler had first cornered her, she felt no fear, only gratitude for Marcus and the inner strength she had discovered. The quiet girl from Barcelona had found her voice, and when she spoke, the whole school listened. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. And with her family by her side, she knew she could face anything.